So the next speaker is Leon Walls. Leon is an associate professor in the Department of Education here at UVM, also a Gund fellow, and his work focuses on science education, the nature of science, critical race theory, who is a scientist, and all the equity issues involved in those, as well as the sustainability issues involved in those. So you're up next, Leon. Thanks so much for taking part, and over to you.
Thank you, Taylor. And I want to thank the Gun Institute also for this opportunity to be on this panel. So today, I mean, I don't have any slides. I'm just going to generally talk about a project that I'll be working on. So today, I want to share a project that Dr. Eric Roy and I will be working on with some students in Winooski, beginning in the fall of 21. And that's based on a Catalyst grant that we received from the Gun Institute, and we're very happy for that. So I'm a science educator, and basically what I do is I prepare K-5 elementary students, teacher candidates to effectively teach science. And my research generally focuses on equity and social justice in general, which is why I mainly focus on BIPOC populations as far as the folks who I use as participants. And to get more specific, my focus is really on getting more Black African-American students involved as well. So as Taylor alluded to earlier, there is a dearth of participation in scientific fields by BIPOC folks, and that includes, I mean, that's a dearth of them in pretty much all professions, but in science and environmental field as well. It shows up quite prominently. And so what I've done is I've kind of followed along with what the National Research Council, the developers of the Next Generation Science Standards for K-12 students have done, is they've now kind of placed a lot more emphasis, not just on the science content, but also on engineering design. And so this was a great opportunity to do some collaboration. And here's it. They also realize that there's a lack of diversity. And one of the statements that they start out with, and I don't particularly agree with all of the language they use, but they say that NGSS, or the National Next Generation Science Standards, inclusion of engineering with science has major implications for non-dominant student groups. From a pedagogical perspective, the focus on engineering is inclusive of students who may have traditionally been marginalized in the science classroom or experience science as not being relevant to their lives or the future. So as I said, some of the choice of words in there I would have changed, but I do agree with the general idea of bringing engineering more into the science realm. And so three things that the engineering design focus is supposed to bring in, and these three things are defining and delimiting engineering problems involving problem solving, designing solutions to engineering problems, and optimizing the design solution to involve processes and solutions that are systemic, okay? And so how that fits in with what Dr. Roy and I are doing is, his focus is actually on ecological design, engineering. And I thought, wow, this is perfect. Melding my science education needs and foci with his ecological design, it fits perfectly with the Next Generation Science Standards focus. And so that kind of led to us brainstorming and coming up with a potential way to deal with this. And so the age group we are going to be dealing with is middle school. And the NGSS states for middle school students, they start very from early childhood to elementary middle, and then they break it out as far as secondary as well. So we're focused on middle school. And at the middle school level, students learn to sharpen the focus of problems by precisely specifying criteria and constraints of successful solutions. So basically, we want to bring in real world problems for these students to deal with. We hopefully will bring them into the lab. And to get back up 1 second, the students that we're going to be focused on are going to be BIPOC students. So these are going to be students that probably have not had opportunities to be in a lab, you see laboratory equipment and use it and work with, and actually dealing with real world problems. And so that's the focus that Eric and I are going to bring. And so just to give you an idea, for those who are not familiar with what ecological design is, it minimizes environmentally destructive impacts by integrating itself with living processes. This is a definition by Vanderen and Cowan. Ecology, they argue, should be the basis of design. It is nature's own design strategy we find when we seek to minimize environmental impacts. So my focus is to bring more BIPOC students into ecological design work, environmental design, sustainability. And this is one way we do it. We're looking to do this. And we even have in the works right now a plan to work with the watershed consulting in Winooski with some of their actual work that they're going to do. So we're actually going to have our students work with real world problems to get them familiar with. And that's kind of the my project in a nutshell.
Leon, I wondered if you could tell us about how you plan to kind of evaluate this project and see if it worked. Like what do you define as success? How will you measure it? That kind of thing.
Sure. We will be developing interventions that we would like the students to be participating in, but we're hopeful that having them actually work with real world problems and getting into the hard work of kind of trying to figure out what's the best design for this. Get them used to doing that and preparing them. So in the future, this is what you will be asked to do as far as science goes. And I want that to be, my pie in the sky is that becomes a general part of education, that we just include students in this and kind of break down the barriers that we've established thus far, and as far as inclusion goes. So hopefully this will come up with some novel curriculum, some approaches that might help.
Yep, another couple really good questions here we have time for.
Sure.
So one from Sherwood Smith, it says, have you looked at gender in our students regarding BIPOC in science? Has it impacted design?
Well, the next generation science standards do, in the National Research Council, they're not breaking it out so much in that. They do look at, they do include gender and other identities as part of the things they want to do as far as their overall umbrella of inclusion, and I'm with that as well. I have no problem with that, but I'm an advocate for Black students, particularly. So race is an issue for me, and yes, definitely, I am concerned about all inclusion as well as gender.
Great. Actually, a whole new batch of questions has flooded in, so I'll just choose one more and then we can come back to them. This one from Patricia Perkins. Thanks, Leon. What are some examples of how watershed applications may help further community equity and science learning?
Sure. So a lot of times we've usually gone to more rural areas as far as how we develop things relative to ecological design. not a whole lot of focus has been on urban settings where a lot of BIPOC individuals live. And they need to understand how watersheds work as well, and what some of the problems that understanding watershed dynamics, how hydrology and that sort of thing can cause some of the problems in their own area. So I'm trying to make sure that this science that we are looking at is not just something that is for out in, countryside, like where I live at this point. But it will adjust. It will be something that's specific that students will understand that they can use and be part of in the place where they are.